Feels like there's been a lot of news recently in the gaming world. New games have been releasing left and right, the PlayStation Portal is out soon, rumors keep swirling about the successor to the Nintendo Switch, and now Valve has revealed the Steam Deck OLED version is coming out very soon. In fact, you only have to wait till this Thursday the 16th if you want to get your hands on one. If I did everything right, it should be Tuesday, so that's only 2 days away. And that is what I want to talk to you about today. I'm going to go over all the details that we know so you can decide for yourself if it's worth your time and your money. So let's get into it, everyone. There are a lot of small changes with the new Steam Deck. I'm not going to cover all of them because some are just little tweaks, but the biggest one by far that we're going to talk about is the screen. The new Steam Deck is outfitted with an HDR OLED display that will boost the color range of your games, as well as giving you deeper blacks, a better contrast, and a brighter brightness. I haven't been able to compare these two models of Steam Deck myself, but if the screens are anything like traditional LCD and OLED screens, then the image quality, though it is the same resolution, will feel like a whole new experience with an OLED. To top it off on this front, the new Steam Deck is running at a 90Hz refresh rate compared to the old 60Hz, so you will have a smoother gameplay experience overall. Now, moving away from the main attraction, I want to briefly talk about the storage and weight of this new Steam Deck as it compares to the older models. When it comes to storage, the change is pretty big, but doesn't really change what you can do with the console. Let me explain. The old Steam Deck had a maximum stock storage size of 512GB, while the new model is available with either 512 or 1TB. Now, this is almost doubling the base storage, but doesn't make much of a difference in my opinion, because both versions have more storage options through the use of a microSD slot, as well as the ability to completely swap out the internal SSD. However, according to Valve, it'll be easier to do this on your own with a new model, so it is still an improvement in my eyes. Now, briefly touching on the weight of the console, it is being reported that the Steam Deck OLED will weigh 1.41 pounds, putting it just around 5% lighter than the older LCD models. Now, that might not seem like much, especially when you consider that the Switch weighs less than a pound, but it's still a step in the right direction, so I won't knock them for that, and it can mean a lot when you're holding it all day. It's going to feel like a big difference. One more improvement to talk about before we get into the nitty-gritty of prices is how the battery life is going on this thing. Does it perform the same or worse with these new flashier screen? Surprisingly, no. OLED actually has a lower power consumption compared to LCD, and Valve has given the Steam Deck a slightly larger battery in this model, so the Steam Deck should last anywhere between 30 to 50% longer, which will translate to around 3 to 12 hours depending on what you're playing. I think that can be seen as totally acceptable or abhorrent depending on what your use case is, but again, an improvement is an improvement regardless. Besides all of these changes, there's been slight improvements to things like RAM and the Wi-Fi module within the Steam Deck. These things are important, but I don't think they are integral to know for the average consumer. So I'll link to the page from Valve's website that goes in depth a little more in the description, and there's also this handy guide from IGN that I'll put up on screen now if you want to pause and read that. But for now, let's move on to how this compares in price to the older model and to some of its competitors. So the 512GB version of this is going to come in at $549, which is $100 more than for the same size of the LCD model. As for the 1TB version, that'll run you a full $100 more than that at $649. This is obviously a lot more than a Switch, which is anywhere from $200 to $350 depending on the model. Heck, this is more expensive than a PS5 or Xbox, but I think it is important to note that the Steam Deck can do a lot more than those consoles and most portables that you're going to be looking at. It is basically a mobile computer and comes with all the advantages that something like that provides. It is very user-friendly and extremely moddable when it comes to hardware and software. This is for someone who is entrenched in the PC gaming space, probably has a large Steam library built up, and has a lot of extra money to spend. It won't be for everyone, but I think that the people that do get this are going to be very happy with it, and I hope Valve will continue to support this into the future. So yeah, there you have it, everyone. A quick rundown of the Steam Deck OLED edition before it becomes available later this week in a couple days. What do you think? Are you going to save up for something like this, or do you have your sights set on something else? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you all for watching again, and I'll see you all in the next one very soon. Bye.